Ships and men. After Troy was burned, Ulysses sailed for home with 3 ships holding 50 men each. 3,000 years ago, ships were very different, though the years they have changed much more than the men who sailed them. These beaked warships used by the pirate kingdoms of the Middle Sea were like no vessels you have ever seen. Imagine a very long, narrow rowboat with 20 oars on each side. The timbers of the bow curve sharply to a prow, and this prow grows longer and sharper, becomes in fact a long polished shaft tipped with a knife-edged brass spearhead. This was called the ram, the chief weapon of ancient warships. In battle, the opposing ships spun about each other, swooping forward, twirling on their beams, darting backward, their narrow hulls allowing them to backwater very swiftly. The object was to ram the enemy before he rammed you, and to ram first was the only defense, for the brass beak of the ramming ship sheared easily through the timbers of its victim, knocking a huge hole in the hull and sinking it before its men could jump overboard. These warships were also equipped with sail and mast, used only for voyaging, never in battle. A square sail and a short mast held fast by ox-hide stays. The sail was raised only for a fair wind and could be tilted slightly for a quartering wind, but was useless against headwinds. This meant that these ships were almost always at the mercy of the weather and were often blown off course. Another thing that made them unfit for long voyages was the lack of cargo space. Only a few days' supply of food and water could be carried, leaving space for no other cargo. This is why these fighting ships tried to hug the coast and avoid the open sea. Ulysses' problem was made worse by victory. When Troy was sacked, he and his men captured a huge booty. Gold and jewels, silk, furs, and often 10 years of war, the men refused to leave any loot behind. This meant that each of their ships could carry food and water for very few days. This greed for treasure caused many of his troubles at first. But then troubles came so thick and fast that no one could tell what caused them. Hardships were simply called bad luck, or the anger of the gods. But bad luck make good stories.